career has certainly taken an international path, and certainly taken a path that is of interest to international culture and international business. And if there are programs that should be of interest to mentees, or programs that should be of interest to people that are kind of on the outside and wanting to understand what supply chain management is. It's a great opportunity to visit with somebody that's seen all of the changes come. It's important we recognize that supply chain management is not what your grandfather flew 20 years ago. It's a whole different program now. It's managed in a whole different way. And frequently, is that a benefit or not? Well, it's kind of both. The fact that the FAA requires people like Boeing and other companies to hold their requirements and not allow changes just because of changes in moving work, let's say, for a short term. That's important to know, and that is frankly a selling point that we have over some of we in the U.S. aerospace industry have over our international competitors. So, Jen, if you don't mind, we look forward to your presentation.
Well, I assure you my presentation will be brief. The real star is here. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight and joining Spirit Aerosystems and listening to an aviation outlook. I have had the opportunity to meet a lot of people that are here tonight over the years in the World Trade Council, and I know not all of you are aviation people. So why should you care about the aviation industry? Why is that important to you as business people in the Wichita community? The World Trade Council will strive to bring programs to you that are beneficial, that help you understand how to work in an international environment, have topics that are timely, and things that are important to your businesses. I think that it's important that we talk about the aviation industry. Wichita is often referred to as the air capital of the world. And in fact, aviation is $4 billion of Kansas's GDP and 20% of our exports. Aviation is a huge driver for our economy. And for Wichita's major mood lighting. Great. Everybody has their wine, right? Okay, sorry, I didn't get there. Okay, Wichita, for us here in Wichita, aviation is our major export. And in addition to being a major export, it's a huge job creator. There's 119,000 aviation jobs in Kansas. And some of this research that I did, I found that 3.6 jobs are created for every one aviation job. That's huge numbers. So even if your business isn't an aviation business, it's impacted. I know we have the lawn care industry making lawnmowers. All those aviation people are buying lawnmowers and it's creating demand in your industry or shipping products in. I know there's a lot of people here from the logistics industry. And as you can see here in 2016, in fact, aviation was the largest export for Kansas, $1.8 billion. Surprising being in the wheat state, how much aviation contributes. So I'm grateful. I work for a company, Spirit Aerosystems, here in Wichita. Actually, just recently, from my connections with the World Trade Council, we had a connection with the Japanese World Trade Council, JETRO, and my colleague David Nelson and I were invited to come over to Japan and meet a lot of Japanese suppliers. One of the most exciting things, and we were chatting about, we're looking out the window of the airplane, and it was a field of 787s and you saw a few 737s in there, but it was aircraft that was made right here in Wichita, Kansas. It was really exciting and had a lot of pride that the company I worked for, Spirit, had created some of that product. We have 15,000 employees worldwide, and 10,000 of those approximately are employed here in Wichita, Kansas. So today I've invited Cami Power to come and talk about the aviation industry. Cami is one of the directors at Spirit Aerosystems. She's the director of the 747 and 767 program. Prior to coming to Spirit, she was in the investment management and research sector, doing analysis for financial analysis and government contracts. She has a business degree, or a bachelor's degree in public relations, and she's working on her MBA from Newman University, which I saw here tonight. I'd like to welcome Cami to come and talk about the aviation outlook.
Thank you. I have to say, when Jen first asked me to do this, I was really hesitant, but she reassured me that everybody in Wichita spends their Thursday evenings drinking wine, eating food, and talking about economic forecasts, so I feel like I fit right in. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is something that I'm very passionate about, that's very meaningful to me. Having grown up with a grandfather that was an aircraft mechanic, I spent many hours with him, sounds terrible, on the side of a road in Tulsa on 46th Street, watching airplanes come in and out. And I see you shaking your head. And it's something that's very meaningful to me. It's something that I think of every day whenever I walk into our factory. It's something that's very special to me, and I have never ceased to be amazed at what we do and what we build. So I can't take you to the factory tonight, but hopefully you guys will get a glimpse of some of the amazing things that we do, and hopefully I get to share that with you. So before you start thinking, oh, hey, she seems kind of nice, I wonder if she can get me tickets for me and my family, discount airline tickets. We are not Spirit Airlines, so as much as I would love to help you out, we do not actually work for Spirit Airlines, we work for Spirit Aerosystems. So we're not part of Spirit Airlines, but what we are part of is a very long legacy of building aircraft here in Wichita. So what Spirit does, we build manufacture major components of the basic structure of an aircraft. At Spirit, we like to say flight begins with us, because it really does. If you don't have those major components, then you're never going to get off the ground. So some of the historical things that have happened here, building in 1927, whenever Stearman moved to Wichita, right, that was a very meaningful event. The B-29, the B-52, when we acquired sites across the world, production of the 747. I mean, there's some very iconic things that have happened here, not just for Spirit, but this entire community. So as a community, we spent more than 90 years innovating and leading the way in aerostructures. And one of the things that I really loved about moving to Wichita and working at Spirit, I've been here for about 4 years, it's just a sense of community and a sense of pride in the aviation industry. So if you've never worked in the aviation industry, for me, it's nothing like you've ever seen before, and I think it's something that's really special. And I think we have a lot to be proud of. So Spirit is the leading global aerostructures in terms of Tier 1. So you can see the components that we build, so the fuselage, propulsion, and wing. So the fuselage is about 50% of our business. But the important part is the platforms that we're on. So Boeing and Airbus are the major players in the OEM market, the original equipment manufacturers, and we're the only company in the world that's on all of these major platforms for Boeing and Airbus. So I don't know that people often realize how impactful that really is and the amount of work, but what that equates to is about 12,000 airplanes that are in backlog, and that's about $47 billion. So there's a significant amount of revenue here, there's a significant amount of jobs here. And in addition to the commercial side, One of the things that I love about being on 747 and 767 is for right now we're working on 767, which is the platform for the KC-46 tanker, right? We're working on the Sikorsky helicopter, we're working on P-8, we're working on V-280. So we're working on all those things that are not just about transporting people from one place to another, right? But they're mission driven. There's a bigger importance to it, and I think that's something that our team is very proud of as well. So as Jen mentioned, we do have a global footprint. So we have a footprint in North Carolina, Oklahoma, Wichita, of course, is our largest site here in the air capital of the world, Malaysia, Prestwick, Scotland, and also Saint Nazaire, France. So one of the things that we're really focused on supporting here is DOC. Has anybody seen DOC? Okay, did anybody see DOC at Riverfest? It's pretty fascinating, it's pretty amazing. We actually had the opportunity to meet with Connie Palacios. I don't know if you guys have seen her on the news, but she was one of the original Rose of the Riveters. So she came to our shop and talked a little bit about it. But one of the things that we're trying to do is make sure we preserve the legacy of the air capital. So we're actually working, the Boeing and Spirit executives have supported now a 32,000 foot facility, which is broke ground in September. That will be the future home of DOC and also an educational facility at the Wichita airport. So I hope you guys can stop by and see that and participate. So I think why we're really here, talk about the commercial aviation industry just kind of as a whole. So as you can see from the chart, the aviation industry is historically very cyclical. Right now, we're in one of the longest peak cycles that we've ever been in the aviation industry. This is really attributable to a couple of things. So one is growth in developing markets. So of the 7 billion people in the world, less than 10% of people in the world have actually been on an airplane. So there's huge amounts of population out there that is available that has never been on an airplane. We also see technology refresh. So we see updates to airplanes, we see new engine configurations to improve fuel burn. So we see that. We also see different changes based on environmental focus. You know, there are certain decibel levels in the Heathrow Airport now where they put requirements. So we constantly see changes in technology that we're being asked to support. This is the projected air traffic growth over the next 20 years. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's really about 4 to 6%. Here we're looking at the average, which is about 5%. So Boeing has estimated there will be 41,000 additional aircraft that will be produced in the next 20 years. Airbus is a little bit less optimistic. They have about 36,000, but their estimate does not include all the regional jets. So one of the things that you'll see here, sorry, I'm not sure which one's a pointer, is you'll see 737. So currently we're building at 47 airplanes a month, but we've announced to go to 57. Airbus is right behind them with the A320, building 46 today, going to 60. I will say, just to give you guys a bit of perspective, so 10 years ago, the 737, which is built here in Wichita, was only building at 21 airplanes a month. We're shipping 2-3 airplanes a day, just on 737 alone. There are multiple airplanes that we're delivering, so the volume, it's really incredible to watch, and I hope you guys all get to come to Spirit someday to see it, just moving the airplanes around. A 787 and A350 are what we call our wide bodies, or twin aisles, so there are actually two aisles in the airplane. So even though they're at lower rates, these are really kind of unprecedented rates for twin aisle programs. They're pretty significant. So for the 787, it's at 12 today, going to 14, and for the A350, from 9 to 10 airplanes a month. So if you can just imagine the volume of people that you can put on those airplanes, you can move around the world. We're seeing new airplanes bring up new city pairs, right? So there's new availability for people to travel within countries, between countries. So it's really an exciting time to be in the aviation industry. Is anyone surprised by the amount of volume? Seems like quite a lot, right? I think it's pretty surprising when you see it in this way. I think we travel and we kind of move around, but we don't think about the rest of the world and the population that has never been on an airplane. So I want to talk to you too a little bit about Spirit's strategy, about being the leading aerospace industry. So this is our strategic summary. So this is what we're really focused on at Spirit. So I'll tell you where we're focused, and then I'll tell you kind of what we're doing and how we're going to get there. And I think the supply chain piece is a really critical component of that, so I'll spend a little time talking there. So really it's about strengthening our relationships with our customers. So Boeing is about 80% of our business at this time. Airbus is significantly less, but we are continuing to grow our defense business, and we're continuing to grow our other business. The other thing that we're doing is focusing on our third-party fabrication business. So I don't know if most people know this, but we are one of the world's largest fabricators of supplied parts. The only thing that we do at Spirit is we consume them ourselves. So I'll talk to you here in a minute about how we're expanding that strategy as well. And also the maintenance repair capabilities, if I can figure out how to work this, sorry. So how we're gonna do that is execute on our supply chain strategy. So this is something that Jen is heavily focused on. This is something we're heavily focused on as a company, is how do we leverage the universal supply base to provide the quality of parts that we need at the cost that we need, really at the best value. We're also focusing on how we optimize our manufacturing footprint. When you're building this many airplanes, we can't just continually build buildings to support that. So we really have to look at how are we optimizing our footprint. And in addition, how are we executing on research and development? What are the new technologies that we're bringing in? What are the things that we're doing to make ourselves more efficient, more cost effective? We also have a factory that was really built for 21 airplanes a month, and we have some engineering that's probably less than desirable. I don't know if you guys know what Mylars are, but they're basically a giant plastic sheet, and that's what you take and you draw out the shape of an airplane. So one of the things that we're focused on as well is really digitizing the shop floor. And this is critical when we're trying to transfer parts between suppliers so that we know that we can tell suppliers what exactly they're supposed to build. I don't know if you guys know this or not. Something that coming into the aviation industry kind of surprised me, but when you think about it, it makes sense, is we measure every day in the thousandths of an inch. So just imagine that. Thinner than a sheet of paper is the type of tolerancing and the type of dimensional management that we're looking at. So it's incredible the number of parts that we have. I was saying when we were having dinner, 747, the fuselage that we build alone, has over 10,000 parts. Imagine all of those parts in the supply base, and each one of them is measured in the 100,000ths of an inch. So it's a pretty complex system. In addition to driving the efficiency and the cost, we're also working on building and developing our talent. This is one of the things that I really loved, again, about coming to Spirit and about coming to Wichita. And we kind of had the conversation at our table earlier, is we're really looking for people who are creative thinkers, who are problem solvers, who will do whatever it takes that we need to go do to deliver an airplane. So we did have a pretty phenomenal agreement that we settled with Boeing. We had some contractual issues that have been lingering for several years. So just some of the highlights. So one of the things that we worry about in our industry is stability. And we look at things like our long-term contracts with our employees, our labor relations, our customers. So this was really a historic thing for us. So it resolves our commercial issues into 2022. We are working with our customer on some advanced aerostructures studies. There's some pricing. There is a forward loss that was taken, but there are some things that we do in the business development side. Airplanes are very expensive to develop. We use a special type of accounting called contract block accounting, to which we amortize those costs over all the units that we build. So even though it's a huge loss there, it's actually better overall for us as a company. We have productivity discounts tied to 737 volume. Again, it was 21, now it's at 47, going upwards to 57. We agree to investments on rate increases, and again, returning some interim payments back to Boeing and really moving to industry standard payment terms. So this is one thing I think that's important in supply chain as well. One of the things that we're talking about is PO contracting and what the terms are. We had some very favorable terms with our customer, I think because we were part of Boeing before, so moving more to industry standards. So again, some of the products that we build for defense, just like I talked about before, the P-8, we were one of the 7 suppliers selected on the B-21. So I mean, that's something that's we're very proud of at Spirit. And then as far as fabrication, as I talked about before, we are a huge fabrication supplier. We largely consume that ourselves. So we are standing up a third-party fabrication business, which means that we will take business from other customers and supply them parts as well. In Kansas and Wichita, specifically focusing on 5-axis, and that's really hard metal machining, some of your tie and steel, things like that. In McAllister, About 300 people there. We're setting up a 3 and 4 axis center of machining. It's smaller, less complex, more detailed parts, softer material. We've talked a lot about chemical processing. This is one area that we don't really see a lot of, especially in Asia. We don't see a lot of capability and capacity there. So we're actually one of the world's largest chemical processing centers, especially for aviation. We are looking at expanding our manufacturing facilities in Malaysia and then additional value-added work as well. That's what I'm most excited about. 3D printing titanium parts, I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so one of the things I do want to talk about is, we're not just here for the short term. It really is, in a long cycle business like this, you have to invest in research and development. Again, we're not adding a ton of square footage. We are adding jobs. We are adding rates. So one of the things that we really have to focus on is research and development. When we get into these higher volume rates, we have to have repeatable processes. So a lot of what we're trying to do is leverage our engineering and production expertise so that we can really innovate and improve and increase the efficiency, increase the repeatability of our processes. So you guys will see some of the partnerships that we have. I keep trying to not hit the wrong button. I don't know if you guys saw, we also sent out a press release, I think it was last week, where we were working with Aerosystems to come up with a non-destructible way of inspecting composite hardware. So there are lots of things that we're doing to try to really be ahead of the curve. Things that you maybe don't necessarily associate with Wichita is, right, being R&D, innovation leaders, but in the aerostructures business, we're definitely leading the way. So again, investing in our local supply base. So we had a lot of conversation at our table about where we're sourcing and what we're working on, and that we see a huge value in our local supply base. So we do put a lot of investment in this. These are the people that we work with day in, day out. Whenever we need blue streak, whenever we have issues, I mean, these are the people that are always here for us. When we're looking at total landed cost, right, and moving things from across Wichita we're moving from Asia, and you're looking at freight, or you're looking at using the ocean, it really is cost effective. So last year alone, we spent more than $1 billion with over 500 Kansas suppliers. So this goes back to what Jen was talking about. For every job that we have in manufacturing, there's about 3.6 jobs that come along with it. So again, we've awarded business contracts to more than $3.5 billion, worth $3.5 billion to suppliers. So I want to talk to, when we're talking about building the team, so it's not just about how do we interact with suppliers, but what we're focused on at Spirit is how we interact just internally and the way that we behave and the things that we value. So in the last year or so, with Tom Gentile coming on, we've really taken a step back and said, we've really in the past valued firefighting and kind of urgency, and so we really need to think about what is it going to take for us strategically for the long term to maintain the position that we have and to continue to grow. So the things that we focus on are really transparency, collaboration, and inspiration. And that's not just internally, that's with our supply base, that's with our partners. So that's just something that I thought was important. Because I think one of the things that I love most about Spirit is it's not just an investment in the aerospace industry, but it's really an investment in people, and it's really a community. Okay, and that's the last thing we're going to talk about. So just the community at Spirit. So Spirit is one of the most generous places that I have ever worked. In the last 10 years, the Good Neighbor Fund, which is sponsored by employees, has given over $4.4 million. That's people that are in your community. That's people that make lots of money. That's people that make no money. I mean, that's people that want to contribute and give back. In addition, we've had over 13,000 volunteer hours, and I think that's pretty significant. So I think one of the things at Spirit is we're very grateful for the community that we have, and we feel a huge responsibility to that community. So again, that's one of the things that I appreciate most. So you can see some of the different events that we do. Tools for Schools, we're right now in the middle of the Spirit of the Harvest. I think our goal today was to package up 90,000 box lunches. So we had employees working that all day today. So just some of the things that we do. So just in summary, there's a huge demand in the aviation industry. There's a stronger outlook than there ever has been before. We're well positioned in terms of aerospace and aerostructures. We're looking at growing rate increases. We're looking at new work packages. Our goal is to have $1 billion business for defense and also $1 billion business for fabrication as well. So the opportunity is there. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that as we're doing that, we're giving back to the community. We're providing for the people that provide for us and that support us. So again, I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to our speech. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. I appreciate all of it. I appreciate the opportunity of being able to speak tonight. I had some great conversation at the table. Some really thought-provoking things about how do we as a company, how are we growing and developing people, and what are we looking for, and how do we partner with WSU, or how do we partner with other institutions. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it. So I was just ask if there are any questions. Does anyone have any questions? Concerns? Yeah.
Can you talk about some of the specific things that you guys are doing to execute the supply chain strategy?
So some of the things that we're doing to execute the supply chain strategy. I will say one of the first things that we've done, and I can have my supply chain colleagues ask as well, as a program manager, I didn't know what we were spending on supply chain. I think we didn't have a good idea of cost. I think we didn't have a good idea necessarily of market price. So I think one of the first things that we've done that's been really beneficial for us is really working what we call the clean sheet process. So figuring out what a should-be cost is, what we should be paying for things. I think that's one of the first things that we've done. And I think when we do negotiations with incumbent suppliers, and also when we're looking at new suppliers, that's what we're using as our target. And we're using that, it is a perfect state, but thinking then, well, what does the market drive out of that? So I think we're being a lot more competitive with our bidding. But again, we're looking at total landed costs, right? What does the freight look like? What does the quality look like? What does the delivery look like? So it's not cost in a vacuum. That's where we keep going back to value. But I think just understanding, one, what we're spending, and then two, understanding what we should be spending. I think those are the major things we've been focused on. Jen, do you have any? Okay. Any other questions? That's it? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. No, I really do appreciate it. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions after and you're just too shy, Jen will be available. So, thanks.
Thank you for a great presentation. I'd like to ask the board to stay for mandatory pictures. This is a form of thrashing that we give all of our board members. So I look forward to seeing you at the end of next month. And sorry?
November 16th.
No, November 16th. Okay. See you later. Bye-bye.
All right, got it.